Isn't Maureen a wonderful soul to have brought this room of so many people who loved and knew her in your own special way together? And for those who have not been able to join us today due to distance around the world, they are tuning into the live stream as we speak. So I'm going to direct your attention, before I begin and introduce myself, I'm going to direct your attention to a very important man. He's a man I just met today, and he's standing right in front of me. He is going to be live streaming. So, we would kindly ask you and invite you to stay seated so that as our different speakers come up, the people around the world who are tuning in have a direct view from that man, in the wave, Gaetan, to me, or to whoever is speaking up at the podium. Okay? We have a couple of musical interludes this afternoon as well, including my son Kian, who will be sitting right here in front of this podium. So I've been also instructed to give a heads up that when he is playing, especially you, my dear, right here, and you, sir, right here, that nobody moves. Okay, so that I know you probably want to run up and, get his autograph, but let's hold that until after the ceremony, please. So, while he's playing, because again, the direct view to the live stream, and also the recording on my husband, Pat, right there, is on this camera here too. So due to wonderful technology, we have the ability to welcome everyone, and I'm looking right at you as I say this, to Maureen's celebration of life today. Also, I will direct your attention to the screen. Right now, there is a chair in the kitchen, and that is in England, Bristol, England, where Joan, Maureen's beloved sister, who's 93, will be joining us from Bristol, England, to say her tribute to her sister. So at one point, I will direct your attention, and those at the back, I apologize in advance if you cannot see the screen, but at least you will be able to hear her words. For those of you who do not have seats, perhaps...
We're working on it.
Oh, thank you. That's my mom, Nancy. She's been reading and making sure everything's possible. We will make sure that everyone is comfortable. Okay? Perfect. So I do believe that we are live, and the most important person here is my dad. So I know everyone has welcomed Dad. Dad, I'd love to get you a seat.
I don't want to be front and center.
And we'll just let everyone get settled with the chairs. Also, while we are getting settled with the chairs, I'd like to direct your attention to the tables. On the tables, you will find a program for your review. And this is a program outlining our speakers for this afternoon, who have traveled from all over to share their words of tribute of Maureen. Also on the tables, located throughout the room, you'll find various pictures in frames of Maureen at different stages in her life. So I do invite you, after our words are complete, to traverse the tables. Take a look, not only at the beautiful slideshow, and so thank you very much for those who contributed to the slideshow today, but also to the tables and the photos on those. Last but not least, I'm just finishing up the housekeeping as people are getting settled here. Last but not least, on the way out, we do invite you there is a table up here, if you can see it, with a beautiful basket full of seeds. Maureen loved flowers. She loved flowers. So we invite you to take one seed per family, because this is a wonderful turnout today. And may you plant them this spring so that her spirit may grow on. And so thank you from us to coming today. Now we are all set. One last housekeeping item that I'm sure all of you have done already. These lovely devices. If you wouldn't mind reaching into your pockets or your purses, and I see some of you doing it already, and turning your planes onto silent, onto airplane mode, or simply off. Thank you very much. So we'll all do that together. That includes my son William. And his best friend Noah, who just walked in. I am giving myself permission to keep it on, simply because I have a direct line to the UK, if that's all right with everyone. So, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome everyone today. My name is Jennifer Blake, and I was Maureen's bonus daughter. This is my father, Peter Kalasa, and of course, Maureen's loving husband of 44 years. And it is our pleasure to welcome all of you to Maureen's celebration of life today. And that is truly what this is meant to be. A celebration of her memories. So let me begin. To life. Those words couldn't be more descriptive of the way in which the great soul and spirit of Maureen, Mum, Granny, lived her life. She truly embodied life and laughter and love. Every day, it was an adventure with Maureen. She attracted fun and experiences into her life, which you'll see in the slideshow, and into those lives of the people she surrounded herself with. Happy, go lucky, carefree, caring, conscientious, generous, and always up for anything. Those are my most vivid memories of this beautiful lady who was my bonus mother, Granny to my boys, and my dad's wife and life partner for 44 years. When I was putting together Maureen's slideshow for today, I was always amazed to see that in almost every photo, even the ones going back to when I was not in her life, were about her in this beautiful place of laughter, her head thrown back, her mouth wide open, and laughing with glee and authenticity. Today, I will be addressing Maureen, my bonus mom, and Granny to my boys in her many roles, her many loving characteristics, and her legacy throughout this afternoon, as I introduce our cherished contributors to today. So, you will hear me sharing a little bit about Maureen as I introduce each of those who are on the program today, who were special in her life in a very significant way. My dad read my words and that I wrote, and it is his wish that they are all included this afternoon. So in doing so, I shall spread them out throughout this afternoon as my dad's wish for me to be the master of ceremony of Maureen's celebration of life, an honor I lovingly embraced. Thank you, Dad, for asking. Even before I knew her, stories were shared with me of Maureen in her childhood, always daring to be different, going for the joy in everything she did, and living life to the fullest. She would share stories about how she left England, only to stay here for a short bit of time. Well, of course, we know the rest of the story. And how she would, as a young adult, go across London to study at the Royal Conservatory of Music, alone, an adventurer in her own right at such a young age. Music permeated Maureen's life, as most of you well know. Whether it was through her schooling, her profession, her hobby, her love of singing, playing, directing, music was also a fun memory for me in my childhood with Maureen. I remember many days spent dancing beside the piano as a little girl as she played some of my favorite classical musical pieces. I would attend her music concerts where she directed hundreds of beautiful voices, and she helped me sing and audition for high school musicals with that same kind of get up and go attitude that she led and directed her choruses. "Let's go, Jenny," she'd say. And just like that, I started to sing. That "Let's go, Jenny" would also be so motivating as she encouraged my dad, "Let's go, Peter," on the many adventures as a family, whether it be Disney World, Germany, Switzerland, doing hairpin turns down the Italian Alps, again laughing with glee as my dad held on for dear life in the back of the truck, darting around the hedgerows in her home country of England, or exploring Ontario Place every summer, or out to a meal or to a movie. She was always game. She would jump right into life, whether it was riding upside down roller coasters with me at Canada's Wonderland, while my dad stood by and took photos, or embracing a new life when she survived her stroke. She had this incredible determination to live and enjoy life, which was so contagious. I was always in awe at how she embraced her role as a bonus mother. Marrying my dad meant becoming a stepmother to me. And she not only welcomed my mom, Nancy, Mom, give a wave,
I think I know most of the people here.
with whom she shared a wonderful friendship, planning birthdays, bridal showers, baby showers, and truly enjoying each other's company at all times. That is very rare and very special. But she just honored and cherished each moment with me, and as both a privilege and a gift. That was clear. She loved being my bonus mom. That always made Mother's Day so special, as it almost felt like she was shocked that I celebrated her on Mother's Day. Of course I would. I don't even remember my life without her. I welcomed her as I grew up, knowing her as a bonus mom, just as she welcomed me as her bonus daughter. I remember distinctly thinking in school at a very young age, why doesn't everyone else have 4 parents? I remember looking at Maureen's life and thinking, it's so vast and so wide. She had so many travel experiences. And if I could see a show of hands, how many of you know that Maureen just loved to travel? Or maybe that you even traveled with her. It was either hiking up and seeing gorillas with Pat, Dad and I in Africa, riding on elephants in Thailand, going on safaris with her sister Joan, to years of winters spent in Mexico and traveling to the Galapagos Islands. The world was her oyster, and she loved it. Recently, Dad and I just returned on Thursday from a trip that was planned for the two of them to Nassau, Bahamas. Every day, countless times a day, Dad and I would look at each other and say, if Mom were here, she would do this. And so we served that as an inspiration, and we dove right in. Even up to the days of her passing, she was determined not to be a victim or powerless to any type of health circumstances. She just simply put one foot in front of the other and looked forward with incredible inspiration and determination. I remember when she had her stroke and her whole left side of her body was paralyzed. She was determined to start a new life. She retrained her brain, a very challenging skill as it is, at the tender age of 81, with music, piano, doing the stairs, kickboxing. Yes, I just said kickboxing at the age of 81, and going to the gym. She was determined not to let any circumstances bring her down. That will always serve as an example and an inspiration in my life. And believe me, boys, that's my grandson, or that's my sons, William, Keen, and James. I will be referring to Granny and her spirit that lives on as you embrace challenges. If Granny could do it, we can do it. If Maureen could do it, I can do it. If my bonus mom can do it, anyone can do it. That is how she lived her life, not through statements, but through action. In fact, one of the memories that speaks to me so strongly is when we were in Puerto Vallarta, and at the tender age of, in her mid-70s, she said, "Come on, Jenny, I'll race you down the beach." And no joke, she not only outran me, but then she stopped at the end and gave me 10 push-ups. Dad and I were with her every moment of her final days before she passed. And even then, once again, she was putting others first. I believe in my heart that she chose to pass so peacefully, not only for herself, but as a gift for my dad and I, and my boys. That would be a lasting memory of her in her absolute brilliance and strength of spirit. Even to her final moments on this earth, she was selfless and giving, creating experiences of healing for those she was leaving behind to continue on living, loving, and laughing. So let us fill this day with those types of memories, the ones that make you laugh out loud, just as you see Maureen doing in the slideshow. And when you remember her, may you honor her spirit by living life to the fullest. May she be an inspiration to you, just as she was to all of us. It takes a big heart to open it up to so many people and give generously like she did when she brought Hoffman to Canada, which we will address more later, and just as she did with animals. She loved her pets, so they take a special mention, whether it was Pussy when she was young, her dog Britt with Trish, Ferdy, and of course her beloved Susie Q. You'll see her in the slideshow. She's the cute little bulldog. Her cats, Stanley, Sydney, and now Remy, they were her fur babies, and she was the first to understand true compassion and unconditional love when it came to animals. The world was a better place with Maureen in it. The world is a better place now that her memory lives on. I know that through Maureen's zest for life, her dedication and willingness and extreme courage to carry on, her adventurous spirit, her commitment to helping others, and doing whatever it took to make experiences both for herself, my dad, myself, my boys, her friends, her students, which I believe we have some here, her colleagues, her team. These are the characteristics that makes a beautiful soul, one that even with her smile and her gentle way and her beautiful English accent, her genuine laughter, your day would be better with her in it. In fact, a very dear friend of mine, who I also work with, who has a special gift of supporting people in their final days, shared with me that she crossed peacefully and with joy on to her next adventure. So fitting and honoring of Maureen as we all know her. Even though I deeply miss her, I am dedicated to bringing a bit of Maureen to every day with her contagious, beautiful, loving spirit, and I'm dedicated to continue on her legacy of love with my boys and with everyone I meet. Bless you, Maureen. Bless you, my bonus mom. May the stars be bright as you shine brilliantly with them now. I know that you are always in our hearts, and I know you are with us today. I love you. Thank you. It is now my absolute honor to introduce my dad, Peter, who, if it hadn't been for you, Dad, meeting Maureen and proposing 44 years ago, my life and those of our family would not have been touched by this beautiful soul. Your relationship and your dedication as a couple to bring goodness to the world while living life to the fullest with compassionate hearts and generous giving serves as a legacy that will live on. Dad, thank you for bringing Maureen into our lives, and thank you for your ultimate grace in how you have been navigating and honoring Maureen's spirit these last 6 weeks. You are truly an inspiration, and I deeply respect you and your selflessness. Now and always, please welcome Peter Colossa, Maureen's husband of 44 years.
So well done. Thank you. Well, this is certainly daunting to follow such a good speaker. I had no idea how complimentary Jenny would be, and we made our notes independently. You know, I quickly glanced in the airplane what Jenny was going to say, and I said, please don't change a word. So I may be repeating a few things, but I can promise you I'll be much, much shorter. It's, my little presentation is in 3 parts. The first part I call music, and this is my interpretation of Maureen and her life. I think I can put my glasses on so I can read. Of course, first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for honoring Maureen and coming. We had no idea we would have booked a stadium had I known. So, I heard some time ago that each of us is born with a unique gift. Therefore, our vision in life is to discover that gift within us, and then our mission is to share that gift with the world. I believe that short saying is very apt to Maureen. In Maureen's case, her gift was her aptitude and love of music. She trained at the Royal College of Music in London. Thereafter, she taught in England and ending up at the Bishop Strauss School in Toronto as the head of the music department. Every morning at assembly, Maureen would play the organ in chapel. The same chapel that Maureen and I got married in, with her choir providing the angelic music for the service. In fact, the special conductor at that time, Debbie, is in this room today. Thank you, Debbie. Where are you? Thank you for coming. It's a full circle from wedding to here. Thank you for being here. I have often described Maureen to friends as someone who had the ability to teach and motivate her students to sing like angels. And the only way to do that was to be an angel herself. So I would not be surprised that since her soul or spirit has now been set free, she is directing a choir of angels in heaven. In fact, I'm convinced of it. At BSS, she formed many lasting friendships with her colleagues, some of whom are here today. And again, thank you for coming all this way, near and far, to honor Maureen's memory. The second part of my comments I titled New Career After retiring from Bishop Strong. After her retirement from teaching music at BSS, she embraced a new career by becoming the managing director and co-owner of the Hoffman Institute Canada. This program allowed participants to do deep emotional healing. Maureen especially loved getting to know our First Nation citizens in Canada who got a lot of benefit from the program. She traveled and took the program as far north as James Bay in Quebec. She just loved the First Nation people. Their wonderful innocence and their caring. Since the Hoffman process is international in scope, it allowed Maureen to travel to South America and many, many countries in Europe to confer with like-minded colleagues who to this day remain as good friends. They've sent a bouquet of bouquets before. Maureen had a great sense of adventure, as you heard from Jenny. And here, she had a great sense of adventure and fun in life. Most if not all of these pictures on the video are of her smiling, perpetual smile. And I remember seeing a picture Maureen showed me when she was in a high chair in England when she was born, and she was smiling. She was always, always smiling. It was so infectious. So a few brief examples will give you an idea of her adventurous spirit. A brief example is that she traveled alone to Kenya not too long ago to meet the baby elephant she adopted on the way to visit her sister for a holiday. And she was contemplating riding a camel on the beach in Mombasa in the Arabian Sea. She just did it all herself. The next event was she went in a hot air balloon in the Napa Valley while I was in the chase car below. I just had it close me. You get the drift. Maureen was the adventures one. Another thought that came to mind, rather than taking a car or a drive, Maureen decided to ride on the roof of a 100-year-old wooden train whose tracks were built at the same time in Ecuador on the way to the Galapagos Islands to swim with the sea lions. An instance that comes to mind as well, we were in Salzburg in Austria to visit Mozart's birthplace, and Jenny was with us. And Jenny said, why don't we go down to salt mines? Because there's a lovely, I said, over my dead body. Maureen and Jenny went down to salt mines. And of course, in Disney World, Jenny and Maureen were in the Space Mountain, which is a roller coaster inside a dark place. I just shudder to think about it. It was very, very adventurous. She also did extreme trekking in Uganda to see the mountain gorillas, and this was a month after she had a hip replacement. She loved life and adventure. She loved the road less traveled, while I was happy to carry the baggage. And Maureen mentioned this, after she had her stroke, she never considered herself a victim. She never had the poor me's. She was determined and worked on her brain to get her left side back to use. And after 3 years, she was able to walk, and she was able to play the piano. And to keep her mind sharp, because music engages every part of the brain, she memorized Mozart, the whole Mozart piece, and played it many a time. And the piano that we have, which sadly is now silent, we supported each other emotionally all our lives, through sickness and then good health. Right to the end, Maureen supported her grandchildren in all their sports and activities and never lost their tremendous ability to smile. The last part of my little presentation I titled Beloved Friend and Wife. How can I describe Maureen for a period of more than 40 years? Let me count the ways. Let me bore a part of our marriage ceremony all those years ago. And please bear with me. I believe some of you may have heard this. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. Love is not rude. Love is not self-seeking. Love is not easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Love always protects. Love always hopes. Love always perseveres. Love never fails. With your permission, I'm going to repeat this, but instead of using the word love, I'm going to put Maureen in front of it. Maureen was patient. Maureen was kind. Maureen did not envy anyone. Maureen did not boast. Maureen was never rude. Maureen was never self-seeking. Maureen was not easily angered. Maureen did not keep a record of wrongs. Maureen always protected the family and me. Maureen always had hope. Maureen always persevered. Maureen's love never failed. This is my personal summary of Maureen. Maureen's wonderful personality that I was very blessed to have had the company for as long as she chose to stay. She was an angel sent from heaven. Now she's gone back to where she came from. The heart is not ready. The time is never right to say goodbye. However, Maureen will continue to live in our memory. Thank you.
My dad just asked, was that okay?
Yes.
Beautiful. It is now my honor that I'm going to say the same thing. How is anyone going to follow you with those words? And so I purposely planned no words at all. So the next tribute to Maureen is from her grandson. Maureen's role in our lives extended as I welcomed Pat, my husband, into my life. I will never forget the first day I introduced Pat and his family, Irene and Roger, you can give a wave, they're here today, to Maureen and my dad in Toronto at one of Pat's hockey tournaments. I was so nervous, and I just kept asking her, so, did you like him? Did you like him? And remember, I was 15. And all she would say in her beautiful English accent was, yes, Jenny, he's a nice boy. Well, later that nice boy and I got married, and Maureen welcomed Pat and his family, Irene, Roger, and Julie, into her life, and was a wonderful and engaging bonus mother-in-law to him. You'll see many early photos of Pat and I, like one right up there, great timing, and Maureen and Dad celebrating Christmases, festive occasions, travel adventures. And as Pat and I grew our family, she then embraced a new role, her role as Granny. I have never seen, and just to let you know, for those of you who do not know, Granny is the English traditional version of Grandma. I have never seen such joy in her eyes as I did when she first held William, and yes, that photo's up there, then Kian, then James, for the first time. In fact, she was actually there at James's birth, as was some wonderful people in this room. And she always felt that that memory was very special to her, and she hadn't had the opportunity to have her own children, and so she kept it very close in her heart. She was just the best granny. Whether it was jumping into the pool with the boys in Mexico and getting splashed, yes, encouraging them to splash her, or playing board games, which I think you've seen a couple of photos of, or being at the sports. She was an ultimate fan, whether it was a late hockey game, or a soccer game in the rain, or a concert, or a music concert, or a school play. She always showed up. She was always there to support her grandchildren. Every birthday, so that's 15 for William, 11 for Kian as she passed just before his birthday, his 12th birthday, and 9 for James. She was always there to celebrate the next milestone, and the boys so loved her and appreciated being with her. So each of my boys have prepared their own tribute to their granny, each in their own unique way. So it's my pleasure to introduce Kian. Kian is our middle son, and he is going to be doing a musical tribute to Granny on his guitar that he asked his guitar teacher to teach him upon Granny's passing. So for the last 6 weeks, he's been practicing for you and for Granny. So Kian, I know Granny's listening, so just give us a minute to set up. So Kian, Angel, before you begin, could you share with everyone in a nice, loud, clear voice what you are playing?
This piece is called Save Yourself by Kaleo.
Save Yourself by Kaleo.
Oh, whoops. Sorry about that.
meat.
Thank you, Kian. That was beautiful. And even though I've heard that a number of times at home, there was something extra special about it today. Good job, sweetheart. I know she would have appreciated that. The tributes continue. Now, a special tribute to her sister from Joan Hall in England. It is my absolute pleasure now to welcome and introduce Maureen's sister Joan, attending live from her home in Bristol, England, as we live stream this tribute all around the world today. Maureen always spoke of you, Joan. Now Joan is moving to the kitchen, and I can see her there, sweetheart. So we need the picture of Joan up, please, Angel, or babe. Okay. Well, there she is. Hello, Joan. Hello, wonderful Joan. So, Maureen, Joan, I hope you can hear me, sweetie.
Ask if I can hear you.
Can you hear me over in Canada?
Yes, we can hear you, Joan. Can you hear me?
Can you give us a signal, please?
Yes.
Okay.
So-
When would you like to give your talk?
Well, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, Joan, perfect. So, Joan,
And
Joan.
responsibility
Joan,
and pleasure.
Just
To
give
tell you
us,
what happened to Maureen in those last few days
Joan,
before she passed away.
just let it go.
please
First of all,
enjoy.
I want to thank Peter and his daughter, Jenny, for all they've done over the past few months, but also all they've done over the years. And secondly, I want to thank Maureen and Maureen and her husband Peter for the Friday and Tuesday afternoons. We had wonderful times together, and we met together for 5 years like that. Every Tuesday afternoon and every Friday afternoon. And Maureen was always there first. Never second, always, always, always first. And that is what I want to say first of all. But secondly, what I'd like to say is that Maureen had one person she liked. I know she respected many people, don't think that, I don't think that. But she had one person that she used to respect a lot and put a lot of thought into, and that was the Duke of Edinburgh. And she saw, sitting there in Canada, I don't know how she said it or what she saw, I don't know. But Maureen saw the Duke of Edinburgh listening to one of the Queen's ladies. And she was a keen Christian, and she talked to the Duke, and she reminded him that he needs to stop thinking of other people's lives and think about his own life. And this, Maureen somehow resonated with. And she decided that she should think about what she's doing in her life now. And through that, she invited Jesus to come and live in her life. And Maureen said, it was my decision. It was nobody else's decision. It was mine. I decided I would follow Jesus. She was expecting to go to church the following Sunday, but things didn't work out. God had other plans, and it was within a few days that God took Maureen to be with himself. And also, I want to say one thing, and that is Maureen often came to Uganda, and we thoroughly enjoyed our times out there. But the people of Uganda also responded to her and her love, and they sent their love to her. The Ugandan Christians are remembering her and thank God for her. And that's what I want to say, and that's what I want to leave with my greetings, that she invited Jesus into her life to change her and to help her to follow him, which now she is doing. Thank you. And that's Joan. Bye.
Thank you, Joan. Joan, if you can hear me, I've got a few words to say about you. Remember when I spoke lovingly about Maureen's get up and go attitude? Well, you can see that it runs in the family. Joan, everyone, is 93 years old. And wow, does she ever have that spark of life still alive within her. She always remembered and shared with us about her memorable trips to visit Joan in Uganda. Joan was a missionary in Uganda for over 50 years and had dedicated her life to spreading the word and sharing that with those that she came in contact with.
But they could hear you. Oh, fortunately, because I put you on that.
Many memories of Maureen's were of traveling to see her sister, sharing sweet treats. They both had quite a sweet tooth. And also about her honoring you, Joan, for the life of contribution that you lived as her loving sister. So Maureen's words were understandably very special to Joan just before she passed, as evident in Joan's speech to all of you today. Thank you, Joan, for being with us. And thank you, Chris and Erica, for helping Joan transmit her love and her words all the way across the ocean clearly to all of us. And in Joan's words, bye. Now, it is my absolute honor to introduce, and I think you are reaching the understanding that Maureen was very musical. So today, in planning today's ceremony, my dad thought it was very fitting to invite a singer. So we have invited, and actually, Morgan Strickland, who is not only a beautiful opera singer, but a friend of the family's. She has volunteered her time today. I would like to introduce Morgan Strickland for sharing her beautiful spirit and voice with us today as a gift and tribute to Maureen and the healing that she brought to so many. Morgan also was a Hoffman graduate, and this first piece that she will be sharing with us today is called Praise My Soul, the King of Heaven. It's a Christian hymn which draws from Psalm 103 and was written by an Anglican divine clergyman, Henry Francis Light. It was one of Maureen's absolute favorite pieces and was a wish of Maureen's that this would be sung at her celebration of life. Even that, she was prepared. Morgan, thank you for being here today, and thank you to Morgan's accompanist, Tanya Granada. Morgan?
If you know this hymn, please join me. I know we don't have words to hand out, but it is very familiar. Praise my soul, the King of Heaven.
Ransom healed, restored.
Trish Stoney is Maureen's best friend of over 60 years. She traveled with her to Canada from England and since has traveled the world with her. She also worked with her at Bishop Strong School and then at Bethany Hills, where Trish was the principal. They shared their love of adventure and pets, namely black labs, laughter and friendship. My childhood memories always involve Maureen, Trish, and Susan. So it is my absolute honor to welcome Trish to say her tribute to her best friend. Trish.
I met Maureen my second year teaching. Obviously, I was very young when I started. We were both teaching at the Guildford High School for Girls in Surrey, UK. And that was nearly 60 years ago. Those 60 years were full of fun, adventure, and continual friendship and support. In the early days, we did a lot of traveling together, mostly camping. We explored parts of Europe, and then, when we both came to Canada, we drove all across Canada, down into the States, camping all the way. Our biggest adventure, of course, was definitely coming to Canada. We sailed from Liverpool on the Empress of Canada. About halfway across the Atlantic, it became quite rough. And at one point, we were practically the only ones in the dining room. When we docked in Montreal, we were greeted with placards saying, "Vive le Québec libre." We wondered what on earth we were coming to. After spending some time at Expo 67, we settled into life in Toronto. I was on a one-year teacher exchange and taught at Burnthorpe Collegiate Institute in Etobicoke. And Maureen taught at South Prep in Forest Hill Village. At the end of the year, I had to return to the UK, but Maureen stayed on and eventually got a job at the Bishop Strong School teaching piano. You will hear in a little while from her colleague, Deb, about her music career, going from piano teacher to head of music, and all that entailed. I have received many emails from former students saying how much Maureen and the choir had meant to them. I came back to Toronto, never intending to stay. But after some supply teaching, I too was offered a job at the Bishop Strong School. And there, Maureen and I were again teaching in the same school. Maureen and I often remarked how lucky we were to be teaching at BSS, especially during those years with Anne Tottenham. Anne's philosophy of girls' education was an inspiration, and the camaraderie amongst the staff was second to none. Of course, the phys ed department were always roped in to help with the placing of students for concerts at the school and at Roy Thompson Hall. I was corralled in to help chaperone choir trips, and who can forget the fun we had working with Doreen Kennedy on those musicals. The support was, of course, reciprocal. One big example I'd like to share with you is when I was at the Bethany Hills School. We were at one point short a music teacher. Maureen had retired from BSS at this point and was working with Peter in the Hoffman Institute. One day a week, she drove from Kitchener in the morning, taught music in the afternoon, stayed with me overnight, that was a bonus, taught again in the morning, and then drove home in the afternoon. She did this for 2 years. When I told some of the staff at Bethany about Maureen's passing, one teacher remarked, "A lovely person with a tremendous skill of getting the students to not only enjoy music, but actually sing in tune. Maureen's sister Joan, who you just heard speak, lived many years in Uganda. You knew that too. And I was very fortunate to have accompanied Maureen to East Africa on 2 occasions. While visiting Joan, we were able to experience the way of life and explore the country, meeting the people and observing the incredible wildlife. When Peter came into Maureen's life, we still maintained a strong friendship. Of course, we were able to watch Jenny grow up into the fine woman she is today. And Jenny has remarked on the fun she had in those early years at Andale, especially in the swimming pool. For me, it's very difficult getting used to the fact that Maureen is no longer at the end of the phone, an email or a text. There's obviously a big hole in my heart right now. Excuse me. And hopefully that eventually will be filled with lots of good memories. It is now. Memories of her ready laugh, her loyalty, and her compassion. Susan tells me that following her aneurysm, Maureen called her every day until she was back on her feet. That's the kind of quality we will continue to remember about Maureen. At the beginning of COVID, Susan and I Zoomed with Maureen and Peter every Sunday afternoon. And that routine continued until the Sunday before Maureen's death. Susan and I were in Florida on that Sunday, but we still Zoomed. And I'm so glad we did, and that we were able to chat on that day. And now our thoughts go out to Peter and to Jenny and her family as they adjust to a life without Maureen.
Thank you so much, Trish. And yes, many fond memories of swimming that are in the slideshow with Trish and Susan and the doggies. It is now my pleasure to introduce Debbie, another long-term friend and colleague of Maureen's at the Bishop Strong private school in Toronto. Maureen held her role as the director of choral music, and so many times she shared with me her favorite memories were of traveling with Debbie and the choruses all around the world. And as a young girl, I remember thinking, what a cool job. Well, she shared those memories with Debbie, so it is fitting that we hear from Debbie Piotrowski from her role as Maureen's mentee and wonderful close friend. Debbie, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you to Peter as well for giving me this opportunity to speak about Maureen. It's a great honor and a privilege. And hopefully you can understand attempting to compress the true essence of a wonderful 46-year professional and personal relationship into a few moments was a real challenge. Maureen was a very special person to me in so many ways, but I will try. In 1977, I went in for a job interview to teach piano at the Bishop Strong School, and a friendly, warm, and cheerful head of the music department by the name of Maureen Hall interviewed me. That's how we said it. She hired me on the spot. I found out later it had absolutely nothing to do with my credentials. She just liked my outfit. That was typical Maureen. And so began my friendship with Maureen. Her responsibilities at BSS were large and varied, and she was one of the busiest people on staff. I believe that Maureen's greatest passion at school was conducting her various choirs, which I had the pleasure of accompanying. I'd like to believe that we worked together as a pretty seamless team. Maureen really cared about her students, and there was a mutual love and respect between them. Maureen expected a very high standard of performance. However, she made rehearsals interesting and engaging. She brought out the absolute best in her students and her choirs. I will quote from Mary Sadler's email, a former student, quote, "I will remember Maureen's wicked sense of fun and humor, her firm hand when it was required, her supportive nature, her humility, and her leadership, but most importantly, sharing her passion for choral music with a bunch of teenage girls who knew nothing. She taught us so much, and it appeared to me to be so effortless." Keeping with Maureen's love of travel, we took several choir trips, including to Europe and the US. And although we did get to experience and perform in different parts of the world, some of the trips provided some added excitement, such as when we were in New Orleans, we were told that the girls should not go into Louis Armstrong Park, which was directly across from our hotel, and considered quite dangerous. One afternoon, when we had some free time, we were told that a couple of students had gone to that park to sunbathe. So Maureen and I took off all of our rings and our jewelry and walked over to find the girls and haul them back to the hotel. Luckily all was well, but it was not our favorite moment. Maureen was a talented musician, organist and pianist, a fabulous choral conductor, and an inspiring, supportive colleague and friend. Notwithstanding her many great strengths, she wasn't perfect. We had a standing joke that if she had only one single copy of a piece of music, she handed it to me. She knew she would misplace it somewhere if she didn't. Her reading glasses could go walking away as well from time to time, so could her car keys. And she once got on a plane for a choir trip and realized she didn't have her wallet with her. All very Maureen. When Maureen retired from BSS, no one was more reluctant to see her leave than I was. She had been my rock, my partner, and my mentor. Although the physical miles between us had prevented us from seeing each other regularly in recent years, Maureen was never far from my mind. She sent me a beautiful email message for my birthday this past November. I will quote one line from her email, quote, "I could not have had a more special, talented, and lovely person to share my time at BSS. I feel incredibly blessed." Well, Maureen, right back at you. I am blessed, as is everyone who had the pleasure of knowing you. Thank you for all you've given to all of us. Thank you.
I remember when we first asked Debbie and she said, "Are you sure? Are you sure you would like me to share?" I'm so glad you did. Thank you to all of our sharers today. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our youngest son, James, and Granny's newest grandson. James is going to be sharing a beautiful poem today that when he first read this out on a card from his grandmother, that I just knew that Granny would love it. James, come on over, sweetheart, and William, can you help him to bring the stool? James, I know that she is listening to these words. Thank you, sweetheart. Aren't the
Dear Granny, this poem from Le Petit Prince is for you. In one of the stars I shall be living. In one of them I shall be laughing. And so it will be, as if all the stars were laughing when you look at the sky at night. And where its sweetness in the laughter of all the stars, your sweetness in the memories of those you love. I love you, Granny.
Thank you, James. Those were beautiful words, and I don't know if you've seen him there in the corner, but for every speaker, I get a little tug on my shoulder. Am I next, Mummy? Well done. Just one moment. It is now my pleasure, and you can see where we are in the program, to introduce Judy Fern. We have heard many times about Granny Maureen's selflessness. Well, this selflessness was also evident in her great dedication to helping others when she brought the Hoffman process to Canada. That is why we saw it so fitting to ask Judy Fern, a very close friend and mother of Katie, one of my lifelong dearest friends since I was 10, and of course being with me and Granny for over 35 years, Judy knew Granny Maureen very well. We also saw it very fitting to ask Judy to share a few words, as she also was the creator and organizer, along with her husband Don, thank you both, of the Hoffman Ottawa chapter. It was with their support that she supported Hoffman and all the healing that it brought to not only Eastern Ontario, but to so many across Canada. So it's with my greatest honor and pleasure to welcome Judy Fern to share a few words about Maureen. Judy?
My very first point of intersection with Maureen actually precedes Peter. When I was in grade 1, I proudly went to school one day and announced to my entire class that my mom had gone to reform school. She was a graduate of BSS. Maureen loved that story, as you can imagine. She giggled a lot over that. We had so many points of intersection over the 35 years. Too many to go into today, and many points about Maureen have already been covered, but I'd like to share just a couple that relate specifically to Hoffman. It was very hard for me to disentangle Maureen from Peter when it came to Hoffman, because everything was Peter and Maureen, or Maureen and Peter, and where one left off, the other started, and they were the most dynamic team. Courageous, caring, loving. Peter with the phone stuck to his ear. Maureen driving the car, no matter where they were, whether they were at Los Tules in Mexico or whether they were at home by the pool, they were always available. The love that they shared was immeasurable. And I stand here today with love and gratitude on behalf of thousands of people who benefited from the love and the caring that they brought with them to the Hoffman process. She would be so thrilled to see everybody here and so embarrassed because she didn't like the limelight. She was always the person behind Peter, who was the voice and face of Hoffman. But she also drove the ship. So Debbie, I'm really intrigued at all of the lost glasses and keys and whatnot, because she was the one who remembered the binders, put everything together, picked up after Peter, showed everybody the way in, and literally mothered all of us through Hoffman. She was a marvelous woman. And Hoffman lives on in Canada, even though they are no longer directly involved. And I represent everyone when I say we're grateful, and we love Maureen dearly.
What a voice to speak on behalf of the thousands of people that Hoffman touched. Thank you, Judy. We chose well. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce my third son, our eldest son, and Granny's first grandson. Oh, he's saying number one. Granny was thrilled when William came into her life, and one of the fondest memories I have is of seeing William and Granny share their love of music. Granny has a beautiful big grand piano in their entranceway, and for those of you who have seen it, I see the nods around the tables. William would give his hugs when he came in, and then he would promptly go to the grand piano and start playing. First, it was simply tinkering and making up his own songs, and then as his love of music grew into guitar first and rock bands, then to classical music. There was a very special moment when I saw Granny and William on that grand piano together. So Granny is listening from wherever she is today. William is going to be playing a song on the piano as his tribute to his grandmother. So please welcome Granny's first grandson, William. This many people is a feat on its own. So Granny, when you were listening, that just shows you how much he truly loves you. Thank you, William. Just one moment. My goodness, thank you for your ultimate patience and your attention today. We are closing this afternoon with a few words of thanks from me, but before we do, I'd like to invite Morgan Strickland once again for part 2 of her musical tribute. This was a song recommended by Morgan that when my dad and I listened to it, we both broke into tears. So I said to him, Dad, are you sure? Because I don't think we have enough Kleenex in that room. And he said, yes, I'm sure. So it is with these words of this song that we choose to conclude today. So I truly invite you to listen to the words of this song, and I'm sure that you will realize why we saw it so fitting. Then, Morgan, I will close with a few thank yous from us to you, and this will conclude our time together today. So Morgan, please, thank you. Homeward bound.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red, when the summer ceased its gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, when adventure's lost its meaning, I'll be homeward bound in time. Bind me not to the pasture, chain me not to the plough. Set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. If you find it's me you're missing, if you're hoping I'll return to your thoughts, I'll soon be listening. In the road I'll stop and turn, then the wind will set me racing as my journey nears its end, and the path I'll be retracing when I'm homeward bound again. Bind me not to the pasture, chain me not to the plough. Set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, I'll be homeward bound again. Oh, goodness.
Okay, so who made it through? Thank you, Jane. I'm glad someone did. So I'm inviting my dad up for the final words. Hasn't he just simply been a pillar of strength today? And this is how he was in Maureen's final days. So you can see the deep respect I have for my dad, not only in his life, and in their relationship and in honoring her passing. So Dad, I invited you up because this is our thank you. We'd like to thank all of you for coming today, which my father has already said. We'd like to thank you, those of you who have shared your loving words. And we have tulips, of course we do, because Maureen loves flowers, for each of you who shared your words or played your pieces today. Thank you to those who sang, Morgan, and thank you to Tanya for accompanying her. Thank you to my boys for your musical pieces, piano, William, key and guitar, and James poetry. Thank you to those who shared. Thank you to those who drove. Thank you to those who came. Thank you to my friends in the room for supporting me. And my dad, thank you to the friends of my dad, especially over the last 6 weeks, for all the lunches, the walks, and for being there. Please may that continue. Thank you to my mom for those late night talks and for the support. It was very caring and a very special moment for me to see my mom holding the umbrella for my dad and walking him in today. Thank you, Mom. Thank you to my husband, Pat. For your support as Maureen passed, and for the kids, and helping them in this time, and to supporting Dad and I as our bond has grown even more over the last 6 weeks. Thank you, sweetheart. And thank you to Dad for this beautiful celebration today. And thank you finally to Maureen for passing so peacefully, so gracefully, showing us all what the transition to the next adventure can truly be. An honoring of soul and an honoring of a life well lived. In gratitude, thank you for your blessings, and thank you all for what you have shared in Maureen's memory today. Thank you.
And please don't forget to take a seed of wildflowers to plant in Maureen's honor. As you know, April showers bring Mayflowers. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
If there's anything left, please have it, eat it, put it in your pocket, whatever.
Thank you so much. We will be here to give you some hugs and share some memories. Please enjoy the food, take the flowers, and thank you to Capital Funeral Home for a wonderful time today.